Good evening, everyone. How are you? You're most welcome to today's webinar on the art of cinematography in film and television productions. This is a session which is dedicated to exploring the creative and technological mastery behind capturing compelling visuals that bring stories to life. Karibuni sana. My name is Rachel Mali, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's session. As usual, before we begin, allow me to do an overview of who we are. So ADMI, Africa Digital Media Institute, is a creative media and technology training institute. We work to give Africa's creatives the training, mentorship, and the platform that they need to turn their passion into a profession. We offer practical courses in film and TV production, 2D animation, graphic design, music production, sound engineering, animation and motion graphics, photography, multimedia, entertainment business, sports business, and digital marketing. You're very much welcome. And as usual, again, let's ensure that we have a smooth experience. So everyone should mute their microphones. And if you need to have to ask any question, or if you need to comment about the topic, today's topic, do not hesitate to use the chat function. We'll address your inquiries there. So leading us through this session is none other than a professional in this field. His name is Alfred Chomba. He's our head of film and TV production and the core faculty at ADMI. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Chomba.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rachel. Much appreciated. And I take this opportunity to welcome all of you who are joining us for this webinar. Feel most welcome. And it's my pleasure to be with you. And for the next one hour or so, we are going to have this session. And we are going to discuss many things. We'll have a conversation about cinematography in film and TV production. Thank you so much. And I want us to start immediately because I know we want to make sure that we keep time. And I will start by sharing. I have a presentation which I want to share. So I will be able to share my screen. I hope you can see. Rachel, are you able to see my screen? Okay, good. So let's start. Yeah, so when we talk about cinematography, we are talking about, it's the art of telling stories. It is only that this time around we're using a camera. How you write a composition. Yeah, you write something where a write-up, and you want people to understand or to read what you're saying. This time around, as a camera person, choice, creative shooting.
Sorry about that. Let's give Mr. Chomba a few minutes. He encountered some technical issues. My apologies.
Yeah, so I was saying that when you're talking about cinematography, it's the art of telling stories, and the era to tell stories. So as a cinematographer, you need to exhibit certain personal traits. You need to be very good in communication because you're going to be communicating, understand what the production, and also be able to communicate with the other crew member. So communication is very key. You need also to be very good in time, keeping time. So you need to be very time conscious. You need to be able to work with other people. Teamwork is very, very important as a cinematographer, very patient and organized, because as you continue working, you'll be able to sometimes work for long hours. So sometimes for you need to be that patient, for example, because some of the production might go probably like the way you expected, sometimes because of other factors which might not be within your control. So those are some of the key personal traits as a camera person you need to exhibit. So as a camera person, especially for TV, you'll find that we have people who work in studios. So we have camera operators in studios, and they operate the camera. Like now, for example, people are during news bulletin, or when we are having a talk show in studio. So you find we have people who are operating camera in the studio. We have electronic news gatherers or electronic news gathering cameramen or camera persons. These are people who are tasked to go and file stories on location. So you will accompany, for example, a reporter or a producer, and then you'll be able to gather the content, the footage, and also be able to make sure that you have content which can tell a story. So for news gathering, then you need to be very good, especially with how you're going to operate that camera, how you're going to record, and how you're going to make sure that you have enough footage to tell the story. So the art of making sure that you deliver the story also comes it's a package. How and what kind of footage do you have? What kind of visuals are you having to make sure that you can be able to tell the story better? As cinematographers, you'll find that, because now this is a bit more skilled. So you're working with other people, you'll be able to work with, for example, camera assistant. You'll work with the focus puller. If you're doing a production which requires change of focus, so you'll be able to operate that camera plus another person like a focus puller who will be able to ensure that the image you're filming is in sharp focus. So as a cinematographer, this is now a bit more, it's an expanded role of a camera person, whereby now you're not necessarily only operating that camera. Who will be able to, and you'll be able to work with for you to be able to come up with the best content. Well, as you deliver to get variety in terms of camera angles, types of shots, like shot sizes. You'll also be able to position the camera appropriately, because some of the production might require a lot, especially when it comes to movements. So you need to be able to know which is the best angle for you to place the camera, to get the best shot so that you can be able to tell the story better. So you're just using the camera to tell the story. Some of the responsibilities and duties as a cinematographer, I've spoken about lenses. I know who are going to use cameras which require multiple change of lenses. So you need to understand, like, why am I going to change from this lens to this lens? So you need to understand lenses also as a cinematographer. You need also to be able to be there for and available for the rehearsals, so that you can be able to know like how, if you're doing a TV series, a TV drama, there is a lot of cast who are going to be involved. So you need to understand this cast is entering from this area or this door. So where is the appropriate place to place your camera? How do I make sure that I'm able to see properly? So all these things now require a lot of rehearsals. And as a cinematographer, then you'll be able to do that. Also to determine the kind of equipment, in case the equipment you're hiring, which other equipment do you need? Which equipment can you improvise? Which equipment can you outsource? So all that now it's within your mandate as a cinematographer. And you need also to know how to use that camera. Sonic, how do you navigate the features of that camera? You cannot just be there just to operate that camera, but you also need to understand that this camera, this is how you need to go about it. This is how you need to operate it. Besides that, to go into script, or most dials, you need to be able to understand that script. You need to be able to interpret it visually, so that you can be able to see how am I going and which shots are required and at what particular point. So you work together, especially with the director, and also if you are working with the producer. You need to be able to understand, like, which kind of shots are required. How am I going to shoot? The styles of shooting. And all this now requires you to understand, because you cannot get shots or you cannot get images if you don't understand the script properly. before you go to location, you need to do recce. Recce is where you do advance prior visit to location. You go to the building, all the location, the place, and you'll be able to see which is the best place to do the interview, the best place to use, which and understand your location. I will say is that production as a cinematographer. TV or film, it to understand the brief. You need to understand the brief. Then you will be able to gather and is required for that production. It is important for you to be able to have the right gear so that you can be able to tell your story better. Planning is important. You need to have some tools like the script, like the storyboard, which will help you to be able to capture the kind of shots you require when you go on location. Conducting appropriate setup as a cinematographer. You are one who is in charge of making sure the setup is able to have things like lighting, which is going to supplement, maybe you're shooting outdoors, you need a reflector or you need a light. Internet, huh? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I think our internet is, the internet is not very stable. I don't know, maybe it's because so lighting, audio, very, very, very important. The other thing which is very important is the background. Which kind of background are you using? If you're, for example, filming an interview or you're doing vox pops where you interview people on the streets, how do you make sure your background is not distracting? Because the moment you have a very destructive background, then it is going to interfere with your storytelling. You'll find now people will get distracted and they will start listening to what is happening, or trying to interpret other things which are not related to what you're trying to deliver as a cinematographer. The other thing is that you'll find sometimes you'll be working for clients and they prefer a specific kind of background. So you need to be able to know, how can I make my background look more interesting? How can I accessorize my background? How can I make sure that my background is also complementing the kind of shots I want to get? And that's why you have seen sometimes when you're doing interviews in offices, you'll find the camera people or the cinematographers will have, which is less destructive and has more to tell. For example, you'll find if there are trophies, their company or their organization have won, you'll find those trophies in the background, or any kind of accessory which will complement the story. So always avoid clutter, destructive background, and also background which be able to interact with your storytelling. I know most of you have watched a lot of content on local TV stations, from KBC, KTN, Citizen, NTV. These are just some of the TV station we have, the mainstream. The content and the kind of production they show, they ensure that those production undergo that kind of process whereby there is a lot which happens before the actual production happens. So it is important for you to note that this production, they don't just appear on screen. There is a lot of work which is done. And some of the people who do a lot, especially in preparations and during the production, these are the cinematographers. They play a very, 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 very crucial role to ensure that the production is there and to make sure that the quality is broadcast quality. So for mainstream, for example, we spoke about electronic news gathering. And this is where, for example, the camera people will be able to get stories, will be able to record news stories for bulletin, and the camera person will go on location and will be able to shoot. In studios, this is where now the camera person is in studio, and for example, they are shooting a production there in studio, or they are using all the studio infrastructure to make sure that they have the content. And press conferences, news conferences, These are uh, events which happens in offices, in different kind of locations. So for us as camera person, we have to know how can we navigate to make sure that our stories better, irrespective of the kind of stories we create. How can we make sure that we are able to tell that story better in a location, even sometimes we are not familiar with? Because like now for news production, you might not even be in a position to do advanced visit to that location, or like you just find yourself in a space, in a place, and you have to make sure that you have enough be able to share, like briefly, like what normally happens, especially when you're doing TV shows. In TV shows, television shows, you have to prepare very well. You have to have a lot, especially as a camera person. You need to understand, for example, the show. You need to understand, for example, if that production is having a host, you're having panelists, you're having audience, how do you ensure that you have all that captured? Because it is your responsibility as the camera person to have that content, to have the footage, which will be able to tell the story. So for TV shows, it depends with what kind of shows you could be doing. You could be doing a studio-based show, like a talk show. You could be doing a live broadcast. For example, you're doing an entertainment show. Maybe you are filming somewhere a musical show, for example. How do you make sure that that story is relevant to your audience? And as a cinematographer, then you have to make sure that you are able to capture the best shots to tell the story. You are telling the story, emotional the stories, using that camera. How do you make sure that you are able for example, to tell that story much better? So TV show goes behind the scene before even you see.
I'm sorry, guys. Alfred just dropped off again, and he'll be back.
My apologies. I'm having issues with the internet, so let's continue. I'll share my screen in a few. Okay, so we were talking about techniques and filming techniques. So I was saying that it is important for you as a cinematographer to understand the basics, especially when we are talking about framing. Like what's the appropriate headroom for you to have, the exposure in terms of how do you make sure that your image is well exposed. And this you expected, especially to know how to navigate the features of the camera for you to be able to get the correct exposure. Then we are also trying to make sure that you have enough footage to tell the story. You have to make sure that you have, sorry, my apologies. So once you are able to get that, then you can be able now to look at the techniques, like how do you make sure that your image is well positioned in terms of screen direction, in terms of rule of thirds, in terms of depth of field. And these are some of the techniques as a cinematographer you'll be able to be able to have images are well filmed, well captured, and images which can be able to tell the story much better. I know most of you who have been able to operate the camera before, you have experienced some of this, like what I'm sharing about. You have been able to see, like, for example, how can you do proper framing? How can you make sure that you have images which can tell stories much better and in a very creative way? So it is not just a matter of recording. It is just a matter of knowing that, yes, I'm recording, yes, but what kind of shots, what kind of visuals am I having? What am I having to tell the story? So that is very, very, very important. So as a camera person, one thing you need to understand is the equipment. Like what kind of equipment are you going to have, and how do you make sure that the cameras, the camera accessories you have are well handled? Handling is important because most of the time you're going to work on location, and locations will have different kind of challenges. How do you ensure that, for example, you are having the correct kind of equipment, and how do you make sure you are able to use them properly? So handling is important, and I know all of you know that our film equipment are very expensive. Cameras, the lenses, the lights. So if you don't handle them properly, then it is going to give you problems even in future if you want to use them, or when you are, for example, you've hired the camera, you hired the equipment, you'll find that you need to make the equipment, you need to replace, or you need to pay back. So handling is very important. As camera people, we need to understand that for us to use, to document our production properly, we need to have the right accessories. What accompanies that camera? Because the camera alone will be able to get you up to certain level, but now you need other kind of be able to make your work more beautiful, you'll make your work more better, look professional. And this was what we call the accessories. So accessories like the batteries, SD cards, tripod, microphones, headphones, if you want to monitor, because it's important for you to monitor the quality of sound you are recording, lights and lenses. So these are just some of the accessories you require. And it depends with the production you are doing. There's some production which you need much more accessories than what I have here. There are some production which you just need just a few. It depends with what you're shooting. So accessories, and also you need to understand the camera you're having, because cameras might use different kind of accessories from the tripod. So you find some cameras, the tripod will, the shoe of the different from another camera. So it is important for you to understand that so that you can be able to get the right accessories. The most important thing, especially for us as cinematographers, is to understand lenses, because the kind of images we are supposed to by the lens, which kind of lens do you require, and at what point do you need to change, or at what point do you need to have this specific type of lenses. We have variety in terms of lenses, from telephoto lens, wide angle lens, normal lens, and zoom lens. So what kind of lens do you need? If I want to shoot and, for example, record a wide shot, what kind of lens do I need? I need a wide angle lens, for example. Or if I'm using a zoom lens, up to what range can I be able to make sure that I zoom so that I can get a wide shot or a wide angle shot. So it is important for us to understand the lenses. And lenses are going to make our what assignments are we doing? What kind of production are we doing? So that now from there, you're going to live to Mara, for example. If I want to get animals, or the lions, they're very far, what kind of lens do I need for me to capture close-ups of those animals? I need a telephoto lens. So it is important for us to understand that we can be very good in filming, but we need the tools, because the tools will make our work easier. And one of that tool is the lens. So we have many. We have telephoto, wide angle lens, film lens, crime lens. All those lenses, they perform specific, they give a specific kind of image in terms of focal length. So that is important. The other thing is lighting. Lighting is important because it helps us to record quality images, and it also directs the audience on where to look. In film, you'll find most of the films, they use low light locations. You'll find that they are trying to come up with a lighting technique which is very creative to suit a certain kind of genre or certain kind of production style they want to do. So lighting will be able to be dictated by the kind of mood also we want to create. Yeah, so if you are shooting an evening scene, which light or color temperature you require for that kind of evening scene. So it is important, especially for us cinematographers, to be able to understand lighting, because lighting is very key. And also, as we look on the images I am sharing, you'll be able to see that you can also use a reflector, for example, to reflect to the subject and get the best lighting, which suits or is able to tell the story better. Some of the other reasons why lighting is important, it makes the background attractive. So you may change the back, you may create attention to the audience. Sometimes in cinematography, we can use shadows. For example, when you don't want to reveal the person, you can film the shadow first and also be able to show the real person. You can be able also sometimes to that can I know some of you have watched shows like Coke Studio, which used to have very good kind of lighting and they could change the background because of the lighting they used to have in their shows. So lighting is very, very, very key. When you're talking also about lighting, you'll appreciate that lighting is also important in studios, in any kind of location we are shooting, from indoors to outdoor. You cannot have quality images. You cannot have professional images when your lighting is not very good. Yeah. The other thing, as cinematographers, even for us to be able to package our footage properly, tell our stories, one of the best art in terms of delivery is how do we support the camera. So we have the aspect of camera support. Want to create a certain kind of movement, or I want to create that kind of style, especially when I'm capturing the footage, which or which is the appropriate camera support for me to use. So we have the steady cam, have the tripod, we have the jeep, the crane, the dolly, the shoulder mount, all those types of camera supports are available. And I will tell you for sure, when you join us at ADMI, we'll be able to take you through on how to use some of these camera supports, because these camera supports, they are not just there for beauty. They are there because they is supposed to deliver a certain kind of shots. If you are using a crane or you're using a jeep, for example, you want to show the vast area, you want to get the aerial shots, you want to make sure that you can be able to capture a widest view, especially on the set when you're doing. When you're using the tripod, you want to make sure that you have stable shots. You are doing an interview. You don't want to interview somebody and there is a lot of shakiness on your camera. The shots are shaky. So a tripod will help you to stabilize the images and make sure that whatever kind of production you are doing, then the shots are very stable. When we are talking about the Steadicam is, you need that kind of movement. You need to make sure that even as you move the camera, the shots are stable. The movement is very animated. You can be able to tell that if someone is using a Steadicam, then they are able to balance so many things at the same time. So as a cinematographer, you'll be able to check on the framing, you'll be able to check on the focus. At the same time, you are moving with that camera. So there is a lot of multitasking which happens. And sometimes people will say, that's a beautiful shot. That's a very creative shot. But what you don't know, there is a lot happening. There is a lot of art behind that. There is a lot of balancing, especially which the camera person has to go and do. Probably, I know most of you love sports. Most of you have watched, for example, sports where you have many cameras. You'll find that, for example, if you're talking about football, for example, we are having a stadium where we have sometimes when we are talking of like English Premier League, where we could even have more than 20, 30 cameras in one stadium. So how do you make sure as a camera person, as a cinematographer, based on what kind of production you're doing, you're able to deliver the shot? One of the things and one of the art behind multi-camera shoot is that you need to understand which kind of shots you're supposed to deliver. You're not just there to give any kind of images or any kind of shots. You are there to give specific shots, and the director will be able to direct you. They need, for example, this kind of image. They need this kind of shot, and that is what you are supposed to give as a camera person. You are supposed to listen to the director, because the director is the one who is giving instructions on the kind of production. He or she has the idea of what they want the viewer to see. We are just on location to film, but the person who is supposed to enjoy the content is the viewer at home. So we have to make sure that the viewer is well sorted, the viewer is comfortable. And one thing you will understand is that the more cameras you have variety. But also you can have many cameras, but if your positioning is not good, then you will not be able to have that variety. So you need to be able to position your camera properly. You need to ensure that the camera people know what kind of shots they're supposed to give, so that you don't end up with repetitive shots. So you're just having this person, the other camera is giving the same person, this camera is giving this other person. So for you to have variety, then you need to be able to allocate the cameras effectively. Know that this camera, if it's camera 1, it's supposed to give me this kind of shot. Camera 2 is supposed to give me this kind of shot. Camera 4 is supposed to give me this kind of shot. So how you allocate the camera will help to give and deliver a good production. The reason why we have multi-camera, especially in production, is to make sure that, one, we have variety. Two, that we are not missing on any action happening. Three, is also to make sure our production look very professional. And you will appreciate that, especially in sports, when an action passes, you will not be able to get. If somebody hits the ball and the ball goes and it's a goal, that action, you cannot repeat it. So how do you ensure that you had captured that action? One is to make sure that you allocate your camera well and you're able to give proper direction, especially if you are a director. And us as cinematographers, as camera people, we have to make sure that we know our art, especially when it comes to composition of shots, framing, exposure, and making sure that we are also able to be creative. And creativity is just not just putting or just framing that image on. There are so many other things you can be able to do. And as a cinematographer, you have also to understand that you are not there just to become a viewer who is watching the right now with social media, with connectivity to internet. You could be filming something which is being live streamed and it is being broadcasted or consumed globally. So you're not just shooting something for local audience. You're shooting or you're filming. If it's going to be live streamed, if it's going to be broadcasted and it's being, for example, it's going online. So that content is supposed to be consumed by millions of people. So as a camera person, you have to appreciate and you have to understand that. Documentaries, I know most of you love documentaries. And how you film for documentaries is, for example, different from how you film other news content. So documentaries, they require very creativity. One, you have to be very creative. You have to be very patient. Some of the images, some of the shots might require you even an hour or 2 hours before you capture the kind of shots you require. So the art of making sure that we're able to tell our stories better, the art of making sure that we can be able to film for TV and for film is for us to be able to know what kind of content, what kind of production are we shooting, and which is the style, because we have different types of style. The way we are going to shoot for news is not the way we are going to film for documentaries, for example. Some of the images might require a lengthy time before you capture the action. Sometimes you might be able to do a rehearsal before the shoot or before the activity. In some production, you might not even be able to do it. I know right now most of our content online, we are having a lot, especially entertainment. There's a lot of even live stream. There is a lot of watch on demand. If I feel to watch a cookery show, I will just live stream. Or if I feel that I want to watch something on my phone, I can be able to go on my socials and be able to watch. So how do you make sure, for example, you are able to shoot? Without giving so much details about filming for socials, for content, well, you also need to understand that sometimes, depending with the platform you're using, we have different kind of filming style for different kind of content. Sometimes you will appreciate that if I'm doing an entertainment content, and I have seen many people using their phones, they just using the phone and they can record. Sometimes they can go live. Probably sometimes they don't mind so much about the quality, but as long as they can be able to capture the images they want to capture. But for broadcast, quality is good. You have to have good quality. Yeah. So for social media, depending with the platform you're having, depending with your page, for example, yeah, I have seen a lot, especially I have seen people who are even doing cookery shows, and they are doing pretty well. And the way they are filming, you can be able to say that there is a lot of creativity. One of the tools which has come into that is the phone. So you'll find that you'll use your phone, but you need now to know, how do I accessorize that phone? How do I make sure that that phone is able to give me the kind of quality images I need? One of the things is to, for example, use accessories like lights, like microphone. How do I play? What kind of support do I need for me to have stability? Because now if you are talking about stability, then you need to be able to have a device which can help you to have that stable shot. Sometimes I have seen people using monopods where they can support they support the camera and they can be able to get stability and shots which are stable. Because also we don't want to have, because we are using a phone, our images are shaking every other time we are using. How do we make sure that we zoom? How do we make sure that even as we zoom, or we capture very tight shots, our pictures are not pixelated. We are not able to tell in clarity what we are shooting. So when we are talking about pixelated images, we are talking about the quality. We are talking about the sharpness of the image. Things like exposure, also focus, those are also crucial. So it doesn't mean that I'm using a phone, then I'm going to compromise on quality. We have seen productions, we have seen films which have been done purely using a phone. People using a phone, in a kind of phone, but phones which have good quality in terms of clarity. So they do a film, and they are able to get the shots, they're able to get all kinds of images they want to get purely using the phone. So phone is one of those cameras, especially mobile phone videography, which will also shape the kind of stories we tell especially with, for us as makers. I know, right now we are having the COP29 in Baku, and I have seen some of the people who are reporting, the reporters who are reporting from there. They are using phones. They are using the phone to live stream. They are using the phones to record piece to camera. They are using the phone to capture to the TV station. So you can record using a phone. You can do a quick edit, and you probably using your transfer or any other kind of format. You send the footage, and the footage is received on the other end, and they can be able to get the story and do a story. So phones, we just need to know how to enhance, how to make sure that you can be able to use them properly. And as the camera people, you'll find somehow you can have that camera, you can have that Blackmagic, Sony, Panasonic, but also you can have a phone maybe to complement on kind of some kind of shots. So when you're talking about audio, you also need to have good audio. You need to have your lighting proper, so that it is not just because you're using a phone, then you cannot be able to get good sound. Maybe I need to find out whether there is anybody who has something to say at this particular point, as we are nearing I know we are using the chat platform. So if you have any comments, I'll be able to check on the chats, and I'll be able to respond. Yes, I'm seeing James is talking about software. You recommend for video editing. Yes, there are so many software for editing, especially I don't know whether you mean using the phone or on the computer. We have many softwares for editing from Final Cut. We also have we have there's CapCut when you're talking about the phone, so you can use it. So we have different, but all you need to understand is that sometimes we might have very good softwares, but we need to know how to use them. It is not the software, or it is not the camera which can be able to give you the best shots. We also need to know how can we navigate the features of that camera for us to tell the story better. How can we make sure that we can be able to shoot and edit with which kind of software? So I'll be checking on the chats in shortly. So, but when we are talking about filming, even as we come to an end I come to an end of my presentation, there is a lot which happens, especially during pre-production. As cinematographers, we are tasked with many responsibilities of making sure that we have the right gear, we have the right equipment, we test our cameras before the shoot, we make sure that we are able to have the proper accessories so that we can be able to accessorize our cameras and our production when we are filming. There is a lot which happens before you go on set, before you go on location. So as cinematographers, we need to be prepared. We need to understand that this is what I need to have, this is what I need to carry, this is what I need to test in advance, this is what we need to hire, this is what we need to outsource. All that will help you, especially in preparation. When we are going to production stage, this is when now we are going to shoot. This is the time you are going to set on set, on location. How do I make sure that I'm able to set properly? How do I make sure I can be able to mount my camera? How do I make sure I'm able to frame, to compose my shots, and be able to record the way I am supposed to do? Action, camera, you need to be able to know that I need to take don't need to take the longest time to navigate the features or to do my setup. We also need to understand that there is a lot as cinematographers, understanding the concept, understanding the brief, understanding the script, at the same time, understanding the kind of shots we need. How do I ensure that I have the required images, footage to tell that story? And that is my responsibility as a cinematographer. Yeah, so there are a few things like camera movement, which we need to check. How do I move the camera? Camera moves is primarily to follow a subject, to reveal, to be able to show creativity. And I know we have to tell the story better. How can we ensure that we are able to follow an image, a subject properly? It is by using the camera movement. How are we going to make sure that our camera is placed in the best place and it's placed the way it's supposed to be placed? If we are talking about aerial shots, we are using a crane, we are using a drone. Those are the kind of movements we want to make. Why do we need those kind of shots? Maybe we need to establish a location. We need to show the vast of probably to showcase the area. So we need to understand that even as we employ different camera movements, there is also a reason as why we need to do that. Also, as we talk about shot size, all types of shots, it is important for us to understand that we have variety, especially when we are documenting. We don't need to have one type of shot. If we are talking about close-ups, we need long shots, we need medium shots, we need extreme long shots, we need extreme close-up, because all these are able, they ensure that we are able to tell our story better. We are able to package our content professionally. Also, we have angles where you can be able to use different kind of angles, from eye level, high angle, over the shoulder, low angle. These angles, this is the placement of camera in relation to the subject. How do I make sure that the camera is positioned in the right place for me to tell that story better? And all these things, all this content is available, especially for us at ADMI. We are able to give you and show you how to apply. We are not necessarily teaching you on the theoretical part. We are also taking you through on the application part of it. So as ADMI, we are very practical. We are very structured in how we can be able to train and be able to impact and give skills in a proper structured way, especially when we are also factoring things like practical aspect of. We have that angle. This is used mostly in film, and in film you'll find sometimes images are a bit slanted, and this is done on purpose. So it is to show disorientation, confusion, and there is a reason as to why that happens. So I want to end my presentation there, and I want to check on the chat in case we are having questions. I know my presentation was a bit long, but our apologies for that slight interruption with the internet. But nevertheless, the essence of making sure that people understand the art of cinematography. You can have a very beautiful script. You can have a very beautiful script, but the way the filming has been done, then you'll find sometimes people will struggle, for example, to see the images, to understand the storyline. And it is important for us as cinematographers to be able to complement. If we have a very beautiful script, how can we complement and make sure that we have also beautiful images to accompany that and tell the story much better? It is us as cinematographers to be able to understand from all what I have been able to share in very, very, very briefly. Because cinematography is very wide. It's very, very, very wide. And you need a lot, especially for you to grasp all the aspects, especially when it comes to lens, We've not even touched on the focal length, the for the lenses. There are so many other things, but what you need to understand is for us to tell stories better, we need to understand our role. We need to understand how can we be able to package the content in a proper way so that the storyline and the visuals, they can be able to complement each other. When we are talking about TV, for example, we need to be very professional. There is nobody who wants to watch content or to watch a production which has bad sound. The lighting is poor. You are using the remote to keep on increasing the volume or reducing because sound levels were not done properly. The images were not well framed, and it can be very disturbing to a viewer. So right now, because of access to information, access to internet and everything, our viewers are very enlightened. They know when the production is good, they can tell. When a production is not properly done, they can be able to tell. So we have to be very keen as cinematographers so that we can be able to package our content very well. So there's a question Gift is asking, what is the difference between videographer and cinematographer? Yeah, videographer, this is someone who can just operate a camera. A videographer does not necessarily need to understand so many aspects, especially when it comes to camera operation. Probably they can use any kind of a camera, probably a DSLR, there's like the stills camera, they can be able to, film and be able to get any kind of content they want. But as cinematographer, this is more advanced. You need to understand things like lighting. You need to understand things like lenses properly. You need to be able to shoot very complex productions like film. You need to film TV commercials. So you'll find most of the people who are doing those complex production, those are cinematographers. They have, for example, been there for quite some time. So where you find that they have been there for many years, they have used the cameras for many years, so they understand the art properly. So, but for videographer, for example, these are people who are not very well in, probably yes, they know how to operate a camera, but they probably don't have a lot, especially information regarding things like complex things for shooting, which a cinematographer should have. What informs the choice of camera for a project? That's a very good question, Mike. Yeah, cameras, what informs is one, the kind of content you are shooting. For example, you'll find you are shooting something to do like an investigative report. Of course, you can't go to do an investigative story and your camera is very visible. So you need, for example, to have those hidden cameras so that in case you want to get some information, then you're getting information in a way that somebody is not knowing that they're being recorded. Also, the other way of making and determining the kind of camera you need is, for example, if I am doing something like I'm shooting a production, like for example, a documentary, where I will need to have many types of lenses. I need to change from one lens to another because I want to capture different focal, change different focal length and capture different shot sizes. So I will need to understand, it is important for me to have a camera which I can change the lens, a camera which I can put a different lens for me to get different kind of shot size. So all these things informs the choice of cameras, from the quality, from the content I want to shoot, from the production packaging and the style of filming. All that informs the choice of camera. There was also somebody was asking what is clutter. Clutter is sometimes you find when you're filming and there is a lot of distractions in the background. For example, there's a lot, there's some wordings, some people are maybe passing through and a lot of distractions. That is what I meant by clutter. We need to have, if I'm doing an interview, let that person concentrate on listening to what I am saying. Let them not get distracted by a lot of distractions. Sometimes, like here in Kenya, people have cameras. The moment you put a camera on street, you will attract a lot of people. Some people will come behind the person who you're interviewing. Some of them will start doing something, and they can cause all manner of distraction. So that is what I meant, that for us as cinematographers, we need to understand that our background is very, very important. So that if we find that a background is very destructive, then we need to look for an appropriate. You would rather waste a few minutes to change the background, or to make sure that you can operate your camera in a manner that the background is not in focus, rather than shoot and have a background which is very destructive. Sometimes we'll be able to shoot documentaries or content for different clients. And you'll find, like, for example, the way our streets, our towns are structured. You, for example, be doing a product for this company, let's say company A, but now company B, who is their competitor, the walls of a certain building or a shop is painted a color for that company B, or there is the wordings about that color company B. So you find that if I want to get a good shot and serve you on the street, and at the same time I am promoting the competitors' colors or brand, then you find that background doesn't work well. So we need to be able to balance and check that. Which camera do you recommend for videos for budget of 200K, 300K? What I normally say about cameras, one, you need to get a camera which you can be able, for example, one thing you need to understand, what kind of content do you shoot? What do you film? Are you shooting for, do you do weddings? Do you do corporate functions? Do you do docus? Do you do music videos? If you have specialized, then you need to understand that because of my specialization, I need this kind of a camera. I need a camera I can change lenses. I need a camera which I can be able to have multiple lenses to back what I shoot. Or if, for example, I just do events, maybe I don't need to do a lot, especially when it comes to changing of the lenses. I can get a nice camcorder, which is good quality, which comes with a lens, which is zoom. So I can be able to zoom in and zoom out and change my focal length even as I shoot, which is pretty good. So from a budget of 200K, 300K, you can get a nice camcorder cameras. I don't want to mention their names here because they have not paid me to promote or to advertise for them, but we have nice camcorders which you can get with that kind of budget. But also remember, you're not only just getting a camera, you're also getting camera plus accompanying accessories. For example, you'll find cameras, you just buy one camera and then it comes with one battery. One battery will not be sufficient, especially when you're shooting for long production. So you need to have like another battery. You need to have a charger. You need to have a tripod. So even as you budget, also know that I'm budgeting a camera and a few accessories, which will help me to get good shots when I am filming. So that is something you need to note. Yeah, I can see someone is saying thanks. Gift is saying great. Thank you so much. Who else is there? Is it okay using a photographic camera to record? Like, yeah, like DSLR. Yes, I know most people are using DSLRs to record and to come up with content, especially on social media. Most of the people are either using phones or they are using the DSLRs. Yeah, but now when it comes to when you're doing now things like video, when you're doing content for TV, you'll find that now you need now camcorders, some of those cameras which can record for long hours, and cameras which you can be able to even be able to be very sure that you are doing and you're getting the best quality. I know this is not the last time we are going to have this kind of conversation. I appreciate so much for your engagements. I appreciate so much for the feedback I am getting. And I know we are going to have another one God willing, which we are going now to even to go much deeper. Because of time, I will end it there, and I will apologize because of that slight issue we had with the internet at the beginning, but at least right now things are stable. Thank you so much for joining. I am looking forward to having another opportunity with you in the near future. Thank you so much.
Again, to our viewers, thank you so much for your participation and you are very patient with us in the podcast. Thank you for your patience. Until Hannah, shout out to everyone who participated, James, Elieza, Joshua, and thank you so much for your participation. So for anyone, if you have any questions or if anyone is still wants to ask any questions, please do not hesitate to I have your numbers I will contact you and I'll share with you information about our film and TV production course. Don't forget that our January intake is currently ongoing and we will be working with applications if you want to learn more about film production, cinematography, and all that. Once again, thank you for being with us this evening, and we have another webinar scheduled for this Friday. So if you have friends who would be interested in knowing more about digital marketing, or if yourselves are interested in marketing, please be sure to join us on Friday